From the inside of government to the mindset of a builder. In a world where most are still figuring it out, some are already stepping into rooms where real decisions are made. We're here in the heart of Columbia at the beautiful Boyd Innovation Center, where ideas turn into action and the next generation of leaders are being shaped in real time. Today, we're sitting down with Caleb Dixon, someone who's experienced leadership at both the state and national level, from South Carolina House of Representatives to the U.S. House of Representatives. This is the Fail Fast Founder Spotlight. Caleb Dixon, thank you for having me on the show, man.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for taking the time, man. A lot of people don't get the opportunity to really see how the government works from the inside. Mm-hmm. Can you talk a little bit about your experience at the South Carolina House of Representatives and prior to that, the House of Representatives?
Yeah. So first I'll talk about my experience with the United States House of Representatives and Congress. I was able to see what Congress is like, the United States House of Representatives, through the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation. And last year, from August till December of last year, I was interning on Capitol Hill.
Okay.
I was in Congressman Clyburn's office, and he represents South Carolina's 6th congressional district.
Right.
He's the only Democrat congressman in the state of South Carolina. And so every day I was interning on Capitol Hill in the United States House of Representatives, and I learned a lot about the federal government.
Right.
A lot of the people that you see on, TV, like CNN, all these news networks, I had to interact with those people and see those people on a daily basis in meetings, walking down the hall. And it was definitely an interesting experience. And I was in the United States House of Representatives during the government shutdown as well. So during that time, I actually was not allowed to go into the office.
Wow.
And, this last year, that was the longest federal government shutdown in American history.
Right.
So I really got to see how much government impacts people. Obviously I was answering constituent phone calls, like observing meetings and stuff, but I see how it impacted me personally.
Right.
Just as an intern. All interns, could no longer work on the Hill during that period. And after December, when my internship ended on Capitol Hill in Congress, I wanted to do the same thing, but at the state level. So, with me being from Columbia, South Carolina, graduating from Blythewood High School, I wanted to see what the South Carolina House of Representatives was like. Same thing, just the state government. And I was able to, first, I was working part-time with the South Carolina Legislative Black Caucus. And from that role, I was able to get my current role, which is being a legislative affairs manager with the South Carolina House. I'm the only male legislative affairs manager, and I'm the youngest. At 22, I just started in February, and I'm learning a whole lot about politics, government, people, and I'm just grateful.
I can imagine. I want to take it back though, because you're interning, and in the midst of this, the longest government shutdown in U.S. history. Did that almost change your mind in any way? Did you start having any second thoughts, any doubts? Did that change your outlook as far as career?
No. I actually think it motivated me even more.
Okay.
Because I saw how hard that time was, like for interns, but I can only imagine what it was like for real people. Because when the government shut down, when the federal government shuts down, people lose their jobs.
Yes.
Staff doesn't get paid. And just so many negative things occur. And the reason why that happened is because people can't agree. People cannot agree. And by people, I mean, those that we elect in office. So the shutdown actually inspired me to stay in politics, because I think there needs to be more people like me that genuinely just wants to make a difference. and that will listen to the people.
You know, your journey, right? You talked a lot about you're the youngest, right? The only male?
Only male in the
Only
South
male.
Carolina House.
Wow.
That's a legislative affairs manager.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. And, you know, you're getting all this experience. You've already experienced the ups and downs of working in the public sector. How did this kind of form your view of leadership? Like you say, we need more people like you to be of influence in these spaces. How did that affect your view of leadership?
I would say leadership, it affected my view because I think leadership is about service. You know, and what those elected officials are in office for is for service. You know, but I got to see both sides of the equation on Capitol Hill in the United States House of Representatives, and even at the state level where I'm at now,
Right.
where the real leaders that are elected officials, they have that service mindset. They're all about their constituents, the people that voted them in office. So when I think about leadership, I think about service. And, you know, I also think leadership is about carrying weight as well, like carrying weight, and by weight, I mean responsibility.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because, you know, those Congress people, they have a lot of responsibility. And I think good leaders, from, you know, just my experiences so far, what I have learned about leadership, good leaders, it's so many things that makes a good leader. But like as in terms of what I've been seeing from federal and state government, is the good leaders, they carry a lot of responsibility well, and they're people oriented.
Okay.
Bad leaders is the opposite of everything that I just explained. They'll either try to dump responsibility on others, like just to do it, and they're selfish. They're not thinking about people. And unfortunately, there's elected officials that I've seen that's like that.
People oriented, right? Being selfless, acts of service. You know, you're in these rooms, you're seeing these elected officials, you're around policy, you're around structure. In a way, did that make you more cautious about your own journey, how you view yourself as the leader that you're soon to become? Did that shape or influence how you see yourself being a leader?
Yes, you know, I see myself always being involved in government in some capacity, and right now that capacity is service. You know, as a legislative affairs manager, I serve the members in the South Carolina House. You know, I work with four members, and you know, I would say that being in the space has shaped my service mindset, but I don't think it's changed me in a negative way. If anything, it's just made me a better communicator, you know, because a lot of people in politics are older, and you know, and because they're older, you know, it just requires you to communicate in a certain way that's very clear. So that's the only way that I would say it's changed my mindset. And like I said, I have aspirations to definitely climb back to the United States House of Representatives and one day be in Congress.
Did you always see yourself going down the traditional path in government? Was that something that you foresaw prior to your experience at the House of Representatives?
I would say so, and the reason why I would say so is because I always wanted to learn more about it.
Yeah.
You know, because I feel like people's, and even my first interaction with government is the media. You know, I learned during my internship program, her name was Dr. Kwame. She was a professor, like for the interns in the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation. She referred to the media as the fourth branch of government. Media is how people get their information first on government. And so to answer your question, my first interaction with the government was through the media. I had no experience going into it and seeing it up close. So I think that's what inspired me to want to see what it's like for myself. And so that kind of inspired me to get in politics, was just and eagerness to learn. And I know that one of my purposes is to make a difference. I know that's something everybody says, but I think mine is it's like for real, like to make a difference, like to the point to where the world has changed forever.
Yeah.
And I think government is a good vehicle to do that in addition to entrepreneurship.
Perfect. I'm glad you touched on that. Can you talk about in what ways do you see you can present change in government and entrepreneurship specifically? Is there a vehicle? Like how do you see change?
I think real change solves problems. And I know all entrepreneurs know the problem solution framework. Like, what problem is your business solving? Well, that's basically the same thing. What problem are you trying to solve, and what is the solution that your business is trying to do it through? So when it comes to politics, I think the solution is policy, bills, and what you'll find is that certain bills that are passed is not to solve any problem. It might be to please a donor or like another group. That goes back to what I said, bad leaders aren't service oriented.
Right.
So I think that making a change in politics is all about solving problems for the people.
Right.
And you have to listen, you have to be humble, and you always have to be grounded in the people that you serve, because it's easy to listen to other voices, such as donors, such as lobbyists, such as just people with wealth and influence that can take you further and further away from the people in crafting good policy. And with entrepreneurship, I think you make a difference through generating wealth. And what I mean by that is, money is a tool. Yeah. Money you can use money, and I'll just relate it to politics, to donate to a certain candidate. Right. That's lawful. And that's how you can make a difference. In entrepreneurship is, if you as an entrepreneur generate enough money, you can fund a politician, which a fancy word, which a politician is just a fancy word for an elected official. Right. So it's so many different ways that you can make change. But for politics, it's policy. For entrepreneurship, is generating wealth, because with money, you can use that as a tool for a lot of different things. Okay.
So, you talked a lot about change, about policy, and about the problem and solution, right? And that we can solve problems by being people oriented and being, and focusing on solving, people's pain points through having some empathy, right? I've had some experiences in the public sector as a consultant and contractor. You've had your experiences. The government can sometimes move, I feel, a bit slower, as we can say. Not slow, maybe not slow, but slower. Slower, yeah. Right? Did that affect the way that you view execution through the lens of entrepreneurship at all? As you know, as we talked about previously in a previous conversation, the concept of fail fast, right? And understanding that you have to be willing and able to adapt and move swiftly, right? Which kind of seems a bit like there's a bit of a contradiction there. How has the government shaped your view of execution? And do you think that there could possibly be an avenue to create change in that aspect as well?
Like create change in the government?
Yeah, as far as executing at a more efficient or higher speed, or do you think nothing's wrong with the way that the government executes?
No, I think it's a lot wrong with the way that the government currently is, and
Let's
I
talk
think
about it, yeah.
I'll just speak on like the pace of progress.
Right.
And that's actually what you're saying is something that I expressed to people in DC that I met that worked on Capitol Hill for a long time.
Okay.
One person that I had a conversation with, his name was Michael Collins. He was John Lewis's chief of staff, and he graduated from Morehouse College, same school I went to. And I was expressing to him, I was like, these committee hearings that I'm observing, the process in which a bill becomes a law, it's so long. Yeah. And I'm like, how can you make a difference? And he asked me a question, and it forever changed my perspective. He said, how committed are you to the process? Okay. How committed are you to the process? Okay. And that question affected my mindset when it comes to government, because it's a process. And even entrepreneurship, it's a process. You know, you're going to fail along the way. You know, you're going to make mistakes, but how committed are you to that, like, end goal?
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? And when it comes to entrepreneurship, with my clothing business, Prototype Clothing, I founded this business in 2021, going into Morehouse College, and I'm still iterating with it, still working on it. You know, I actually want to roll out some things soon, and with Give Up, you know, this financial technology app that I'm trying to build for college students and donors. I'm committed to the process. You know, I've failed with both of those things. And to answer your second question, I think that there needs to be a complete, like, redesign of government. Almost.
Yeah.
There is so much room for innovation.
Yes.
And I think why innovation might be tough is because you have, like, laws that are on the books that literally and legally prevents innovation from taking place. So that goes back to the policy solution aspect. We need more policy that will allow for innovation. You know, and how we do that is we need, you know, innovative minds, whether that's, and it's not more so innovative, but it's just different minds.
And thinking outside the box.
To get into the space. And that's why I'm just so grateful to be in the role that I am now, because so many people just have walked up to me saying, you know, in all of their years of going to the South Carolina House of Rep building, they've never seen a male behind the desk, and they've definitely never seen a black male. This one man, he said, "Man, I'm proud of you, for real." And just me being in that space is innovation.
Absolutely.
Just my.
I'll throw in that young black male at that.
Man,
the youngest black male.
Just my presence. So, and I say that humbly. You know, I'm grateful to God first, but yeah, we absolutely need more innovation in the government.
Absolutely. I talked to a lot of other founders about systems thinking, right? And you mentioned something there, the process. The process of creating change through policy, right? And one of the main concepts behind systems thinking is identifying bottlenecks and the process of creating efficiency through improving those bottlenecks, through refinement. And eventually you'll refine and make the entire process more efficient. Outside of policy, and you mentioned a little bit on it about, you know, about thinking outside the box and bringing innovation to the table. Are there any other ways that you think the government would benefit or could implement process refinement or getting rid of those bottlenecks, blockers, if you will? Do you have any ideas specifically, or do you see any avenues for change in that regard?
Yeah, I'm really just thinking about the whole process for how a bill becomes a law. You know, I'll just start with fundamentals so people can understand. You know, like a bill, if it first starts off as an idea, it's in somebody's head. Then that idea gets introduced in a committee, which is a forum of lawmakers where they talk about it. And if it passes through the committee, it gets to the House floor. And then if it passes the House floor, it goes to the Senate floor. And then if it passes that, and I'm just talking about it at the state level, it goes to the governor's desk. And in South Carolina, Governor McMaster, he has to sign off on everything. So that whole process takes months. Sometimes bills don't get passed for that year, and they have to start over the next year. And that whole process, I think if somebody can think of a way to condense it by 50%, and that somebody is going to be me. and I'm not saying that in a prideful way. You know, I hope somebody else can come up with it.
Absolutely.
But you know, me personally, have to learn how it is first. Which is why I wanted to see what it was like at the federal level, and now I'm seeing what it's like at the state level. So that's just one process that can be refined completely. You know, it takes super long. Like I said, I can remember on Capitol Hill, observing some of those committee hearings where they were talking about a bill, like proposing amendments, was like an 8-hour process. And I think, you know, there's a opportunity for technology to be involved and for people to be educated as well, you know. And I think, and I didn't know all of this stuff prior to going to Capitol Hill. You know, like I don't think you can know this stuff.
Most people don't,
without seeing it firsthand. You know, like so there's definitely an opportunity for process improvement in the government, and just with how a bill becomes a law is the first thing I can think of.
Man, I love what you said, man. It's going to be me, because somebody has to take ownership.
Somebody has to do it. Yeah.
So to be up there and you say, I'm going to present change, I love that, man. Because so much about policy, like you said, most people don't understand the behind the scenes, and that policy is everything. It shapes the lifestyle that we live, right?
Man.
It shapes where we go to school, right? How we live our lives. So finding a way to, you know, one, make that process more innovative and efficient, so that we can make it better, right? Is very important. Okay. So before we wrap the conversation, man, I wanted to kind of get a little bit about your happening, you know, what does Caleb look like, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now, right? So if you could just talk a little bit about, you know, some of the things you're working on that people might not know about, and also, you know, do you see yourself kind of staying connected to the government, right?
Yeah. 2 things I'm working on, 2 entrepreneurial ventures. I first talk about Prototype Clothing. This is my clothing business that I founded in 2021. And just like the name, Prototype has gone through so much iteration, so much change. But I think now I'm getting to a point to where I have like a concrete vision for Prototype Clothing, and I would say in the next 2 weeks, I plan to start to roll out this clothing. I actually wanted to wear it on set, you know, for the interview, but I was just so busy with everything. So Prototype Clothing, and I think that, you know, as I mentioned, entrepreneurship is a way to create change. And, you know, a prototype is an example. It's typically the first example of something, and I want nothing but, you know, leaders, innovators, people that consider themselves to be the first example wearing Prototype Clothing. You know, I've definitely thought of some very innovative designs and things like that I'm just excited to roll out. You know, I think so I won't mention too much on that. And I'm also
exclusive.
I
love it.
And I'm also building Give Up, which is what I'm building here at the BIC. And
Boyd Innovation Center.
Yeah, the Boyd Innovation Center, and I look at Give Up as my startup. Prototype Clothing, I think, has always been my small business. You know, but Give Up is my startup, something that I'm looking to really scale. Not saying I'm not trying to scale Prototype Clothing, I just have a different vision for it. But Give Up is a financial technology app that is going to transform how students perceive financial aid and how donors make an impact. And this is an app that, you know, I'm looking to roll out with my co-founder that goes to South Carolina State University.
Go Bulldogs.
Yes, sir. And we want to roll out Give Up in the South. You know, the South is known as the corridor of shame with how poorly performing public schools are and how much students need funding. And I think that we've created an entrepreneurial solution through technology that is going to solve that problem. Before I graduated from Morehouse College, Give Up was recognized by the Center for Black Entrepreneurship as the top social impact startup. And you can sign up for Give Up at giveup.app, our URL. And Prototype Clothing, you know, we'll roll out stuff for that with prototypeclothing.com. And to your second question, yes, I always see myself being involved in politics in some capacity, even if I'm just a voter. You know, I think everybody should be involved in politics, even if it's just voting.
Absolutely.
That's step one. And it's okay for that to be your only step. If you don't want to actually get into it, you know, like be an elected official or lobby or, you know, just get more involved. But, you know, I want to be a congressperson. I know I will be a congressperson one day, and I want to be a congressperson to make change. You know, it's really not about me. It's about others. And my role as a congressperson, as a member of Congress, you know, I want to uplift underserved entrepreneurs through policy that will help them start their entrepreneurial ventures.
Absolutely, brother. All right, man. So let's before we wrap out of here, man, we want to do a segment, you know, that we kind of do some rapid fire questions for you, if you will, just to get a better feel about you as a founder, as an entrepreneur, and get some behind the scenes of who Caleb is. What's your guilty pleasure after you had a big win?
I have no idea, you know, but I'm gonna say that I like to travel.
Okay.
So travel, like if I feel like I win big, especially if I have, you know, money I can spend, which I don't really have money I can spend. It's always going somewhere.
I hear you.
But I like to travel, and you know, by traveling, just going to a new place, and it could be somewhere local.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. You a late night kind of guy or early morning kind of guy?
Late night.
Late nights.
Late night, yeah.
Okay. So you do some of your best thinking, or what is it?
I would say I'm the most creative.
Okay.
At night, you know, because that's the time where you can wind down. And I'm normally just thinking of ideas and jotting stuff down. Even though I have to wake up early, I wouldn't consider myself a morning person at all.
Yeah, same, brother. Same.
Yeah.
Have you ever thought about quitting your path, your journey?
Yes, I would lie if I say I've never thought about it, but I haven't quit. I haven't quit, you know, because that would be such a disservice to myself and to my vision. So like with Prototype Clothing, I founded this before I went to Morehouse, and I'm still working on it. I've never gave up on it. I've never gave up on my aspirations to go to law school. I failed, you know, with I first applied to the South Carolina House of Representatives for another role, didn't get it. That's a failure. And I didn't think about quitting then, but I have thought about quitting in the past. But I've never took action on my thought.
Absolutely.
About quitting, yeah.
So to build on that again, and what keeps you going when times get hard? What keeps you going?
God.
Yeah.
Prayer, you know.
Faith, man.
Faith.
How important is that to you, man?
It's everything. Yeah. It's number one. You know, I have a relationship with God. You know, I'm a man of God. I believe in God. Don't mean I don't make mistakes or don't sin, but faith is number one. You know, and that's what I lean on.
Absolutely, right.
In hard times, yeah.
Absolutely. No, I love to hear that, man. We need more. We need the community of faith, you know, faithful brothers in our community. So, you know, to uplift one another, you know, and tell each other to keep going. So I love that, man. What is one mistake that you made at the time that may have looked detrimental, but ended up working in your favor?
It's a good question. I would say, so I took the law school admissions test when I was still at Morehouse.
Okay.
And my score was not in a position to apply to law school. And at the time, it looked like my whole plan was going to be derailed. But if I didn't fail that test, I would have never taken a gap year and interned on Capitol Hill.
Wow.
And now I think, you know, I'm going to take another year to work at the South Carolina House.
Right.
So everything works out for your favor.
Yeah.
And that was something at the time looked detrimental, but I wasn't ready for law school. And if I went to law school right after graduating from Morehouse, I would have forfeited all this government experience.
Right.
And my mind just would be in a different place.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The thing I take from that is, man, sometimes it's okay to assess yourself and say, you know what, I'm not ready. And something else might be my calling. Yeah. This door might not be ready for me right now, but understanding that it's not a closed door, it's not closed permanently. You can always pivot and come back. And there's opportunities that'll open up new doorways for you.
Yeah.
So I love that you were able to assess and then, you know, move forward, man. What would you say is more important, right, for the next entrepreneur who's looking at you, Caleb, as an inspiration? Would you tell them talent is more important, or would you tell them consistency is more important?
Oh man, consistency.
Yeah.
Consistency is the name of the game. That's why people quit.
Yeah.
Because they can't be consistent. You know, they can't be committed to the process, like I said earlier. And I think talent is just like a nice to have, you know. But if you, I think that consistency is like, it's everything. Like you have to do the same thing over and over, multiple times a day. Sometimes, you know, you might get tired, you might not want to do it. But I would tell young entrepreneurs, we are young entrepreneurs, so I would tell us to continue to be consistent, and that's something that I'm still trying to learn.
Absolutely.
But I know that I will get there to the point to where I'm consistent every day.
Yeah.
And I can say that confidently, yeah.
Yeah. I always tell people, like, talent will get you in the door, but it won't keep you there.
No,
You know, it's
no.
your works that'll keep you going. Okay, last question, man. What is your go-to song for motivation?
Oh,
right
man.
now?
I'm going to say right now. So J. Cole just dropped the
Okay,
Fall Off.
okay, you a J. Cole guy, okay.
So I'm going there. I'm going to say 39 Intro.
Okay.
39
Okay,
Intro.
fire.
Do you know that song?
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Fire.
39 Intro, you know, I listened to that song and the whole album, The Fall Off, he's talking about climbing out of Fayetteville, North Carolina, by how gritty his environment was, how hard it was. So the whole album is about ambition and, you know, rising from hard times. So that album has been on repeat recently, and I listen to that if I need motivation.
Again, man, appreciate
Yes,
you for
sir.
your time,
Yes,
brother.
sir.